We are really glad to have Dale here with us tonight. I know that public speaking for many people is a scary, scary concept. And the thing is, especially in the times we are living in, it is more important than ever that we stand up and use our voices, that we go to the school board meetings, that we talk in front of our legislature. Even just sometimes calling your, representative can be a little bit nerve-wracking for people. But it is so, so important right now that we keep using our voices and making our concerns heard. There are a lot of people I know who definitely don't want to engage. And I know we all have our level of what we want to do right now, but maybe you're going to be off for a little bit and you're going to jump back in, in a couple of months. But these skills are so important to have. So we want to help you gain a little confidence tonight and thinking through how to craft your message, how to get up there and get over that fear of public speaking. So I am going to kick it over to Dale for her to get started. She can introduce herself and want to say thank you for her for coming. Like I said, she is a regional organizer with us here in Cincinnati, where I am. Yay! So she's my organizer. So we're glad to have her here.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everybody. Like Julie said, my name is Dale. My pronouns are she, her. I would love for you to drop where you are joining from if you haven't already, your name and why you're here, and just a little kind of intro as to why I'm the one doing this. I originally started off not really liking public speaking. When I took it as a college freshman, it was not my favorite course. And in fact, I really hated it. But over time, I was in a lot of activities and just kind of having to talk in front of small groups and then bigger groups and then bigger groups. And then I ended up changing my major to speech communication, getting a master's in communication. And then I spent 10 years teaching public speaking, interpersonal communication, group dynamics at several local universities. So I am a regional organizer. That is my full-time 40 hours a week job. And so I get to do this public speaking a lot, but you still get nervous every time. So just keep in mind that, these are some strategies that you can use, but we all get nervous and so let's use that nervousness for good. So what we are going to go over, kind of where, when, why you might be doing some public speaking, how to know your audience, which is probably the most important thing, preparation, how to get ready for your speech, then giving that actual speech, and then kind of leveling up your public speaking going forward.
So we're gonna do a little fun interactive thing here tonight. So if you guys have never played Kahoot, it's a really easy way to have everybody see answers to everything. Okay, and Dale already gave us the first question, which should pop up on your phone or your screen in a second. Give us a scale. How comfortable are you with public speaking? So if you're very comfortable, give us a 5. If you um, are not so comfortable, you can put it in the middle. If you are truly terrified, you can do strongly disagree. I am comfortable with public speaking. All right, let's see the results. Guys, 96 of you answered. Oh my God. Okay, wait. I thought it was a tie for a second. I was like,
Okay.
really?
I thought it was all tied.
I know, I did too. I've never used this one before, so I didn't know how it actually spreads out. So we got okay. We got some people who really, really are terrified of it. And we got like 30% of you are somewhere in the middle, actually more than 30. You've got some 2s and 3s and 4s. Okay, that's pretty evenly divided. All right, next question. Oops. This is a poll. Do you have public speaking experience? Have you spoken in public before, whether that would be at a school board meeting or have to stand up in front of people at a party or whatever you want to clarify as public speaking? 5 more seconds. Let's see how experienced this crowd is. Okay, most of you have, so you know what it is you are getting yourself into. Okay, last question for our poll. What public speakers do you admire? So this is a type your answer. I didn't log in. I'll say mine out loud after people have had an opportunity to type their answers in. This should make a word cloud if I did this properly. This should be a word cloud so we can see everybody's favorite public speakers. You got about 6, 7 more seconds. I'll tell you my answer now. Michelle Obama, man. Michelle Obama. I saw her. I got to go to the night she spoke at the convention, and it was unbelievable. All right, so there is and I didn't even influence anybody. I said it at the end. So who else we've got up here? Yep, the Obamas, Lincoln, Jimmy Carter, Pete Buttigieg, yes, Gavin Newsom's great public speaker, AOC, of course. Oh, Nancy McLean. Somebody went to book club last night. We had Nancy McLean. She was amazing. Maya Angelou. Yep, Michelle Heather Cox Richardson. We'll tell her that she made the big, well, she didn't quite beat Michelle Obama, but she did make the big box on the screen. So, all right, thank you guys so much. Hopefully that was kind of fun.
You can probably attest to the fact that the more you do it, the easier it gets. But we do have, a lot of opportunities for it. So, and I kind of made these in order of kind of easiest to hardest. So we've got a great program called Trouble Nation where you can start your own group where you are going to be able to advocate for issues in your community. And so start off with doing some house parties and small gatherings with them. And if you want more information about that program, it's Trouble Nation. We always are looking for virtual content. So if you are interested in practicing with us, send us some videos. We would love to share them. School board and city council meetings are probably where you're going to kind of see the meat of your public speaking kind of for our population. And then maybe you work up to speaking at rallies or demonstrations. And then it sounds scary. Legislative testimony sounds very fancy and very scary. But I think Julie has had an opportunity to do that. And I'd love to hear her experience with that.
Yep. So I remember I had a friend who was running for office and she was asked to testify at our state house in Ohio. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, she's going to testify at the state house. And it seemed really fancy. And then I was part of Moms Demand Action and we went up to give testimony. And honestly, not as scary as you would think it would be. You have a pretty short time to get up there and speak. I was in a committee room, so there was about like 20 people and on the panel. And I will say this, you have plenty of time to prepare ahead of time. You have a written statement, so you have time to prep what you're going to say. It's really just for me, it's writing a letter about why I cared about the issue and why I wanted to see a certain thing change with this bill. And to be totally honest, if you are ever concerned that you are not qualified to be an elected official or to speak in public, go listen to some of your state house committee meetings because there were a lot of people up there sitting in those chairs who did not know what they were talking about. It was actually quite shocking to me. So that is another way to kind of get over that fear. But it was an amazing experience to be able to make my voice heard in front of the legislature, and we actually did defeat a pretty bad bill that time. So it was worth the time and the effort that I did put into it, and I did practice before I went. I did think about what I wanted to say. I did write down talking points, and I did practice it, which is something that Dale is going to be talking about.
Spoiler alert. I love it. All right. So getting ready is the biggest part. And I would start with knowing your audience. So, a lot of that, if you're speaking at a city council or school board meeting as a concerned parent or concerned resident, you might already know them a little bit, the meeting leaders, but make sure that you kind of know what they are going to think about what you have to say if you can, because it may not be the meeting leaders who are your actual audience. Your audience might be the audience. And Julie alluded to this in that we're entering a very difficult time in our history. And it is going to be all the more important for us to use our privilege to protect and lift up vulnerable communities. And so, you may be not necessarily speaking to those elected leaders, but you may be speaking to the people in the audience, or people who are watching at home or on video, um, who need to know that there's people out there speaking for them, on their behalf. So I always recommend, looking at time limits, knowing what, you know, signing up ahead of time, actually attending some meetings before you speak to kind of see, what the platform is like. Uh, and I also try to go early, to kind of get settled. So I do the same thing on first dates where, it's just, let me get there first. Let me get comfortable. Let me find a good seat. Let me check out the room, um, and have a chance to settle in before, I have to get up there. So, but you never know really who you're going to reach when you are brave enough to speak. So, concentrating on your goals. I will say that public officials are starting to limit audience remarks. So I would say be ready to adapt. Be prioritize your points so that your most important ones are covered. Be flexible, and make sure to know that you got your point across. So, um, and yeah, just knowing that audience will make you a better speaker and feel better about your messaging. So in the chat, I would love for folks to tell me, what are some ways you can learn about your audience. And there's plenty of ways, depending on that group. But would love to see, and I'm trying to find the chat. Can I see the chat, Julie? You're on mute.
You should be able to.
If she's sharing screen, sometimes it's hard to see the chat.
Yeah.
Kate commented that at her city council meeting, speakers were limited to 1 minute, and that has happened to me before, where you go in with a 3 or 4 minutes great thing, and then our council was going too long, and they'll cut it. So you definitely need to know the rules of like whether you have to sign up to speak, because sometimes places limit it to like 10 speakers and it's first come first serve. And I have seen opposition groups go in and like try to fill up that whole form so only their people can speak.
Research on the internet is a good one.
Yep.
Look up the organization and reference. Going to the meetings prior so that you can see how they run and who's speaking, and kind of get to know those folks is also a good idea.
Yeah, asking the organizer of the meeting if that's something you can do. Make eye contact with your audience, help connect, read some prior meeting minutes. Okay. I think
And I think there's also, kind of, we have Natalie Hastings coming up from the Honesty for Ohio Education. There's a lot of organizations out there that are tracking, legislation and public policy. So, use them. I know in Ohio we have, an excellent person named Rachel Coyle who runs how things work at the Ohio Statehouse, and she provides great cheat sheets on, the most extreme members of the legislature and the legislation that they're pushing. So,
somebody did comment here that they make a 3 minute and a 1 minute speech, which makes perfect sense. So you have it ready to go. Couple other things here, just talking, which I'm sure we'll talk about stories and personal experiences. But I see Karen said she's speaking at the NCAACP MLK breakfast Monday. So you're already speaking in front of a big group, Karen.
all right. And I think, as if you don't know your audience, it can be kind of awkward. And so I think Julie Collins has a story about, a time where the speaker wasn't actually doing a great job of reading the room.
Yes, I do. So I'll preface this with the fact that I graduated high school in 1982 and finally graduated with my associate's degree from Columbus State in May of 2018. So big gap there. So our speaker for graduation was one of those folks who could not read the room. Interestingly, if you all have seen the movie Mean Girls, she had kind of like a burn book, and she was up there speaking about professors and some of her classmates, and it was horrifying at first, and then just got to be the point where I was just okay, this is what I waited 38 years for. This we're going. But it got so bad to the point where she tried to point her husband out in the back of the room, and he was shrinking down in his chair because he didn't want to be identified with her. So she absolutely was not reading the room because there were a lot of people who wanted her off the stage, and she was not. She was going to do what she was there, that she was determined to do. And that was really unfortunate. It was that's the only graduation that they've had that they didn't put online. They were putting them on YouTube, and ours never got on YouTube.
I kind of wish I'd been there, honestly. That sounds pretty entertaining. And I think we heard a couple, I think we've already had some mentions in the chat about ways that you can connect to your audience while you're speaking. I think I heard eye contact, but were there any other good ones there, Julie and Julie?
I'll go back. Eye
Don't
contact.
rush. Don't rush. Because people tend to rush when they are nervous.
Body language, be
think-
aware of body language and what you're conveying to the audience. Yeah, Melissa shared that she had a speaker that made degrading jokes about women with 4 women in the front row. That's definitely not reading the room or knowing your audience.
Mm-mm.
Speaking too fast. I was guilty of that, man. I used to talk so fast. I still do a little bit, but as a kid, I was really guilty of that. And there was something about making sure you have supporters there, people who will, stand up and support you, cheer for you, clap for you.
Absolutely.
That's really helpful.
Make sure to look to your left and to your right.
Mhm.
Look around, don't just look straight ahead. You can even move around the room. If you're not stuck to a podium, you can kind of move. Visual aids can also help. Asking questions, raise of hands, making sure that you're connecting and getting reading the room, literally and figuratively. Awesome. Well, the preparation is key. I have a favorite quote from Abraham Lincoln. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. And that is so important. And Julie mentioned it when she gave her testimony. She practiced. Start with an outline. I actually try to start with almost like a tweet, like a sentence that is the goal and theme of my speech, and then work out from an outline. And I used to not like outlines because I just wanted to start talking or just start writing. But an outline really does help organize those thoughts, especially when you're going to have a time limit. So don't just know your audience, know your topic. Knowing your topic gives you confidence, and enthusiasm will capture your audience attention. So if it's something that you know and care about and are passionate about, it's going to make public speaking all the more easier. Be prepared for follow-up questions, and be prepared to say you don't know, and that you're going to need to come back to that and kind of redirect to your main points. And you want to use facts, you want to use some data to support your argument, but don't go overboard. It gets overwhelming. And obviously, one of our big things, if you have been to one of our webinars, you know that we talk about not repeating disinformation. Julie, did you have a couple notes on?
I'm sorry. I
Which
couldn't
Julie?
find which
Oh,
you meant
sorry.
me or
Julie won't, sorry, I forgot I was surrounded by Julies. I'm in a Julie sandwich. Julie Womack, do you have some thoughts on disinformation and
Yes, for
not
sure. I'm
repeating?
sorry about that. I couldn't find my unmute button. And then, yeah, we have a lot of information. You can go on our website too about disinformation. So we know that it's everywhere these days, and so and it's going to get worse on Facebook, right? Because we're not be fact checking anymore. But the really important thing to do, and I've even corrected my friends, like for example, we went and spoke at our school board meeting, and it was about Ohio has a policy which just passed, which is like basically the don't say gay of, Florida's don't say gay in Ohio, and they wanted to get up and talk about some of the things in that bill and the impact. And they were going to say things like teachers aren't groomers and we don't have pornography in our school library. And so, because they wanted to say that in order to like critique it or to like shoot it down. Um, and what I told them is I'm like, don't do that. Don't repeat the disinformation, because what happens is when you repeat something that is incorrect, even if your goal is to educate and inform about why it's incorrect, what people actually end up remembering is the more scandalous thing, right? So they're going to walk away from that meeting, go home, and the next week they're going to be like, wait, didn't I hear something about pornography in the school library? So what you always want to do is start and just talk about what the point you want to make. Skip over whatever the disinformation is. If someone gets up in a meeting and just says something like just off the wall, it is perfectly fine to say, to say that speaker made incorrect statements. That speaker may have been influenced by disinformation, which we know is rampant online, but don't repeat what they said. Just repeat your truth, what what you know to be true or what you want to see happen. Really just want to emphasize like how important that is not to repeat that disinformation. And that's also true if you're going to use like a visual or something. We don't want to like uplift misinformation or anything like that. And the same applies online. Definitely don't reshare or do anything like that with disinformation, because you're really online, you're just amplifying and increasing the engagement on that person's post, and that actually will drive more people. The algorithm will drive more people to it. So we definitely don't want to do any kind of sharing like that.
Thank you. So if you have a longer speech, you don't necessarily need all of these parts of this outline. If you're going to be speaking at a school board meeting for 1 to 3 minutes. But if you are preparing remarks, we recommend this kind of workflow of an opening that is a question or a fact or a joke or a story. And I'm kind of going to use an example of book bans in this instance. So maybe you start off and you say, out of 73 book challenges in our district last year, 64 of them were submitted by one person. Then you move to connection, why it matters to you and why and how others are affected. So as a lifelong avid reader, I know that it is important to have a safe and welcoming library. And for your problem, you want to be as succinct as possible, but show the need, concern, and urgency. Say, this is a waste of time and money for our schools and libraries. Now, you may not have a solution. That's okay. But if you do, how would you address it? Say, maybe I want to create a set period for book reviews and limit the number of books one person can challenge. Your vision is the outcome of what the solution is. Kids have books and they have consistency, and it saves money for the schools and libraries. Now, a call to action, you want to use that energy that you have created by your speech. So ask them to sign a petition for an exploratory committee to review the book challenge policy. And in your closing, you're going to recap, you're going to repeat your main point. Kids deserve consistency and a welcoming library to make every child feel safe at school. Like I said, this is not going to be for every speech, but it is kind of a flow for a more formal speech. And don't forget, practice makes perfect. We've said that. We will say it again. You can make notes on a sheet of paper, but try to avoid reading word for word. I don't like note cards unless you can fit everything on one note card, because you just mess up your note cards in the wrong order, and then then you're off speech. So I also recommend practicing while you're standing up. It helps project your voice. It helps shift the power dynamic if it's something where you're feeling a little vulnerable. I was in a sorority in college. I guess this is the college story night. And I got in trouble a couple times. Shocking as a troublemaker. And I got called to our judicial board, our disciplinary board, and I would stand up because it was 7 women on the other side of the table to tell me everything I did wrong. And I said, you know what? I don't really like that there's 7 against 1. And so I just stood up, and they actually asked me to sit down because of that shift in power dynamic. And I said no. So, so it does actually help. Also helps with, like I said, with your voice. We talked about having a shortened version ready, and record yourself. You probably talk faster than you think. I talk faster than I think. I had to learn that my face also communicates loudly. So recording helps me check that. And practice your individual speech, but also your public speaking muscles in general. Make a toast at happy hour. Stand up to do it. Offer to lead the book club meeting. Go to your Trouble Nation group, local Trouble Nation group, and offer to present. Start small and incrementally move your way up to speaking at MLK Day, like Karen is doing. So it's time to talk. And it is okay, and it is normal to be nervous. Public speaking is hard. People are afraid of it. It is one of the most common fears. Use those nerves to your advantage. Use that adrenaline. Remember that it gets easier every time. Again, like I said, no matter your topic, passion is what makes a speech powerful, and it will be reflected in your speech and in its delivery. One of my classes when I was teaching public speaking was half musical theater majors and half engineering students. And if you could find 2 more opposite people, I don't know how. And so all of the engineering students were terrified. And I said, there's things that you know very well. Talk about those. There's things that you get real geeked out about that you're really into. Talk about that. Your enthusiasm will show through, and your audience will also be enthusiastic. Don't be afraid to show emotion. Let your personality shine through. Talk how you talk. You will feel more natural, and it will come through as more genuine. Talk about what you know and your personal experience. We all have our stories. We all have why we're here. Be willing to share that because that's the most powerful. And then, like we said, ask your friends to show up for you. Have them wear shirts, have them wear stickers, have them wear buttons. Make sure that they cheer for you. And, know that it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And like we said, remember, everyone is vulnerable. You will likely feel nervous before any speech, but your confidence will grow. There are some things that can help. Box breathing is one of my favorites because I'm not very good at meditating. I'm not very good at emptying my mind of things. But box breathing is inhale for 4 counts, hold it for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, hold it for 4 counts. Repeat as necessary. Like I said, turn to your cheerleaders, practice with them, practice with friends who maybe are a little bit brutal so that they can kind of give you the feedback that you need. And then take a walk, get out that nervous energy physically. So if you want to level up your public speaking, I always recommend trying to kind of craft your spiel, your activism origin story, why you're here, why you care about the issue you care about. finding your voice and the vocabulary that you want to use. I think Julie Womack was going to share her kind of activism origin story as an example.
Sure. Actually have a couple, but the one I like to share is I first I'd always been one of those moms who was worried about gun violence, gun violence in schools, and you saw the school shootings. And I was always, oh, I need to do more. I need to do more. Well, one day my kids came home from high school and they were telling me about their first day of their new semester and what their classes were. And then they were like, yeah, then you sit down and you look for the nearest evacuation route from every classroom. And I was like, wait, what? And they just said it matter of fact, like that. This is just what we do at school. You know, you go to your locker, you go to your classroom, and then you figure out the first day, do I jump out the window? Is there a stairwell near me? What do I, and I was just like, that was it. I went to like a mom's demand action meeting, like the very next time that I had, that there was one. It was just one of those moments that I'll never forget.
My activism origin story was that I went door to door for Michael Dukakis when I was 10 years old because my parents brought me up in this work. So, like I said, standing up to speak whenever you can, starting small, speaking at your local progressive group, your local Dems club, your local Republican club, whatever kind of club you're in, and build up to your larger audiences. Follow up if you've been asked to speak at another meeting, send a thank you note, being able to, have your voice heard, share that gratitude. So I would love, and we did this last time and it was my favorite part, is to get you all involved again. So we've got some little introduce yourself prompts here on the screen. I'm going to start with Julie Collins. But then if you are willing to come off mute, put on your video and introduce yourself and practice, would love to do that. If you want to kind of raise your hand using the Zoom or put in the chat, we can get you called on. And Julie, start us off.
All right. Well, my name is Julie Collins. I live in Newark, Ohio, and I have been involved with Red, Wine, and Blue since March of 2020, the beginning of March of 2020. And this shutdown happened very quickly after that. The issue that I am most passionate about is the teaching of accurate history. And the reason for that is because I firmly believe if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
All right, Julie, do we have any questions in the chat that we need to answer?
Yes, just our standard one. Where can folks find the recording, which will be on our YouTube channel?
And I will send out the slides tomorrow morning.
And Julie will send out the slides tomorrow morning. Folks were really good with engaging with each other in the chat. One I saw was how to keep emotions in check. Sometimes when you're really super passionate about something, if somebody gets up and says something stupid, it can kind of upset you. But, Dale, what is your advice for that?
I struggle with it too. I think just taking a pause and stopping talking, giving yourself a minute. Same kind of thing goes when you lose your spot or whatever is causing the discomfort. It's okay to take a minute, not maybe a minute, but take a few seconds, take a deep breath. Remember that you are speaking for so many vulnerable communities, and it is our privilege to be able to be a voice and protect them. So,
and then the lady who spoke about cybersecurity for kids' phones and things like that, Julie, someone asked if maybe we could do something, have that as a topic one night. So something just to think about when we're doing more planning.
That's a great idea. And if she's still on, I'll put my email in the chat. Email me real quick and we'll chat.
I co-sign the multi-factor authentication. I have it on everything. So.
Yep.
Awesome.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, thank you all for coming and listening. Hopefully you will take Dale's advice and practice some of this and exercise your public speaking skills. Thank you all for speaking up and sharing your elevator pitches, and we will hopefully see you really soon.